Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Saucony Prince of SauconyPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I want to welcome you to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my latest book by the same title. The subtitle is A Guide to Healing Your Inner Child. And I am super excited to share with you my guest today, because I honestly believe that he has some information and some experience that's going to help all of us understand ourselves a little better and get to a better place and a better space in life. But as always, we want to thank our sponsor for sponsoring this episode, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, BetterHelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit BetterHelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal or choose Saucony Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank BetterHelp for being a sponsor of this amazing episode. Well, listen, I want to bring up our guest today because I know he is ready to share some amazing information. And it's none other than my good friend, Kieron Buford. Hey, man, go on and introduce yourself and tell people who you are and why they should pay attention to you.
Hey, first of all, Brother Prince, thank you for allowing me the opportunity and the privilege to be with you on your platform, reaching lives, making an impact, leaving deposits for the greater good of humanity. My name is Kieron Buford. My official title is Pastor Buford from the Shiloh Baptist Church of Bowling Green, Virginia. I am a native-born Mobilian, born and raised, class of '87, LaFleur High School graduate, class of 2001, Spring Hill College graduate, and class of 2019, Virginia Union University, the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology graduate. So I'm kind of well-traveled, man. Currently residing in the Virginia, D.C. area. Been here about, going on 15 years now, but we are frequently back in my hometown of Mobile. Founder of Gulf Coast Christian College in Mobile, due to open in about 2 months. So life is busy, but life is good as well. And as it relates to the topic tonight, I definitely have a lot to discuss and just give my own personal experiences as it relates to having childhood trauma, not necessarily physical, but the emotional and the psychological residuals, of trauma, of rejection, of isolation, all those things that kind of work in tandem with each other when it comes to that particular topic, man. So I'm definitely excited about just sharing my own life story, man, and hopefully that those who tune in can take something from that, man, and apply it to their own selves to find that healing and find that place of peace that they need, man.
And that is so true. We all need to take a minute and just reflect on who we are and how we got where we are. And so, yeah, I'm so excited. Listen, man, I want to hop into some of these questions because I know that you are fired up and ready to go. So my first question, man,
yes.
fact that I want to ask you in your personal opinion,
Yes.
how important is it for childhood healing?
Listen, that is of paramount importance for anyone to heal from the negative experiences, man, that will follow you your entire life if you don't address it. I
Right.
think that without the healing and without acknowledging that there are some issues in your life, you'll never be as complete as you can be. You'll never reach your full capacities because there's always a void there. And just to kind of circle back with my own experience, there's an emptiness there that we tend to have a hard time trying to identify why, where
Right.
there are certain areas in my behavior and my character that
Mm.
keep repeating themselves. Why do I always expect things to kind of fall apart? Why am I always expecting the worst out of situations? And that's
Right.
because we were exposed to those things as children in our childhood. We never got the nurturing and the comfort space that we needed as children. And so we
Right.
spend the greater part of our life trying to reclaim what we never had. We're trying to find that place of peace. I never forget listening to the late great Michael Jackson's story
Mm-hmm.
about how when his father identified that they were successful, that they were very talented with their music, that their childhood was stripped away from them because now they were just busy rehearsing, practicing, and then you became the primary breadwinner for the family. So you didn't have a chance to grow as a child. No
Right.
chance to discover, no chance to make mistakes and learn, and have fun, and the things that we do as children. So when he was an adult, he tried to go back and recapture what he missed as a child, but I think it was probably misdiagnosed or undiagnosed childhood trauma
Mm. Okay. All right.
because he never had a chance to experience that, and there was a hole in his life because of that. So he missed that part of his life. And I think from the outside looking in, that it's something that always haunted him, even as
Right.
he got older and older. But I think him referring back to his childhood, never having a chance to just be a child, just to play, just
Right.
to play in the grass and play with your friends in the neighborhood. He missed that part of his life. It was taken away from him through no
Right.
fault of his own. And I think that's a type of trauma that he tried to reconcile, and he just never could.
Yeah. I oftentimes tell people that,
And so,
what happened. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying. And so, if you don't learn how to deal with that, and
Mm.
to just find a way to facilitate healing and growth, from that void in your soul, you don't have the peace you need. You never find that true peace you're looking for.
Right. Right. That's so so true. And I oftentimes tell people that what happened to you may not have been your fault, but it
Right.
is your responsibility. And what I mean by that is your responsibility to heal.
Hmm.
Carrying that hurt for so long, it doesn't serve you. And so, even though it may not have been your fault, it's your responsibility for you to heal and to free yourself from that. And you do that by acknowledging, like you said, acknowledging that, okay, there was a deficit in my childhood, but then
Hmm.
also actively and intentionally working to fulfill or to actually feed that part of you that was starving for so long. So you're absolutely right. It is important. It's different. And
Yes.
I never really thought about that because even as you mentioned how Michael Jackson didn't have a childhood, I thought about even his ranch. In fact, Never Never Land. I mean, he was
Hmm.
reliving that part of his
Exactly.
life, that he
Exactly.
didn't get. Right, right,
Right. Right.
right,
And that is the I guess that is the effect, of not being able to reconcile that trauma in your life,
right,
not being able to
right,
manage it, um and not being able to come to terms with what you have. One thing we got to realize is that, as you said, it wasn't my fault that I got exposed to this stuff. It wasn't my fault that it happened to me. But once
right,
I recognize where I am, it's my
right, right.
responsibility to address it,
That
to
part.
deal with it, because I can't allow it to linger for the rest of my life, because it does impact you negatively. If we're not careful, it's like an albatross around your neck. We carry that thing forever, everywhere we go, and it impacts our behaviors, it impacts your relationships, it
Yeah,
impacts your perception about things. So it
right.
can be an all-encompassing situation. If you don't deal with that thing, man, it will overtake you. It
Yeah, that's
will.
true. That's true. That's true. So that brings me to my next question, which is, in your opinion, when should someone start inner child work?
The moment you recognize there's a problem,
Exactly. Exactly.
immediately when you recognize, okay, I got an issue, there's something wrong with me. And again, we've been open, so this is me. This is me.
Hey. Uh huh.
Um, so because of my issues and because of my own personal childhood traumas, number
Mm-hmm.
one, I had no self-esteem.
Mm.
As a child, I had no confidence. I'm talking about middle school, high school. We had a good facade.
Right.
Everything looked
Exactly.
happy, but
Exactly.
internally,
Yeah.
no self-esteem, no self-confidence, always deferring to everybody else, always over accommodating, always going the extra mile to make friends, to be accepted, to be liked, to be involved, to be a part of the clique, be a part of the crew. Because in myself, I felt uh, the stigma of rejection. So that's what caused me to have the trauma, being rejected, and
Right.
and and
Right.
being ostracized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By a family member at 6 or 7 years of age, and it crushed me internally. I'm like, what did I do to deserve that? I didn't know how
Right.
to respond, isolated, rejected. And so
Right.
that spirit got inside me, man. And so in order for me to avoid that from happening again or to prevent that, man, I would always be the one to make all the phone calls, go see everybody, try
Right.
and be everybody's friend, try and be liked by everybody, because I did
Right.
not want to go through that rejection again. So
Right.
as I got older, I asked God a question, Lord, why am I like this? What's wrong with me? And the
Mm.
God and the Lord brought back to my remembrance when I was 6 years old about the rejection, about the ostracism, about the isolationism. He said at that moment, that spirit got on you of rejection. It killed your
Mm.
self-esteem. It destroyed your confidence. You never fully develop those components of your character because you got assaulted, by that rejection spirit at such a young age, and it travels with you.
My
You're
goodness.
hypersensitive. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yep.
hypersensitive. You're very observant. The moment some shift or response takes too long to come my way, or the voice is a little bit more high pitched today, or whatever, those are triggers.
Right.
Those are triggers.
Exactly.
Because now you
Exactly.
begin to expect they gonna turn their back on me like everybody else did too. You know what I'm saying? So when you identify those things, man, you got to address it, and you got to go through. Number one, you got to be real with yourself and admit, okay, I got a problem. Because
Yep.
right now, psychologically, I'm in a world by my own of my own that nobody's in with me. I'm here by myself in this vacuum, in this mental vacuum, in this emotional vacuum, and I'm thinking everybody is against me, and that could be the furthest thing from the truth. But because of the trauma, your perception becomes your reality, but it's
Right.
your perception and it's your reality, not anybody, not anyone else's. So that's when
Exactly.
you realize I got a problem. God, I got a problem. Something wrong with me. I got to figure this out, man. And I begin to take those steps to identify those deficiencies in my character and behavior. And I was able to start getting some healing done, man, and overcoming that stuff.
Well, man, listen, I want to applaud you for doing that because, I mean, honestly, a lot of people have yet to come to that level of self awareness. And there are a lot of people that are afraid. They are afraid of actually, doing that type of work and really saying out loud that, hey, something's wrong. I need to work on me. Something's wrong. Something needs to be tweaked. Something needs to be adjusted. Something needs to be talked about,
Mm-hmm.
or something needs to be done. And so a lot of people are really fearful of taking that journey. But what I've come to understand is when you see what's on the other side, when you see the amount of freedom that's available to you, when you free yourself from everybody else's opinion, when you free yourself from what other people think of you,
Exactly.
you can
That's
live a
right.
life that is beyond your imagination, and which is another reason why I wrote the book. But I also want to have these conversations because, again, everybody's situation is different. I had a couple on last week, and they did an amazing job. A husband and wife. He's a principal. She's an assistant principal, and I don't even know if they're at the same school. But I know that they both had their own level of trauma. different backgrounds, different upbringings. I
Hmm.
mean, but they were willing to, again, when it was brought to their attention, and they were consciously aware of, I got an issue. There's something wrong. There's something that's not right. I need to work on it. And that's one of the
Hmm.
reasons why I want to make the conversation around mental health just as just as common as the conversation around our physical health. Now, now a lot of people associate mental health with mental illness, and those are two different things. Even as it is the
Right,
physical health
right.
and physical illness, you know.
Hmm.
So I really want us to again to start the conversation. We're not here to end it, but we're here to start the conversation around that sort of healing. So now you mentioned something earlier, which brings us to my third question, which is how does trauma show up in life and in relationships?
Listen, man, brother, as a sidebar to you, these are some phenomenal questions, man. God bless you, Doc. These are some awesome questions. So
Thank you.
to answer that question, I'm using KB tonight. Me, um,
Okay.
how does trauma show up? I'll tell you how it shows up. Based on what I experienced in life, dealing with the self-esteem issues, dealing with
Mhm.
the spirit of rejection, always
Right.
expecting the other shoe to fall. So when I met my wife, we've been
Uh
married
huh.
now, going to be 28 years in June.
Congratulations,
While we
man.
were dating, thank you, Doc. While we were dating, me still have not I had not confronted my childhood trauma, had not got to the point where I realized, hey, something's wrong. What's going on? Why am I always, over accommodating, running behind everybody, this, that, and the other? We were
Right.
dating, and I kept waiting for the other shoe to fall. I'm like, this can't be real. It's going. We got to break up some kind of way. Something gonna happen. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
expecting now in my spirit, because of the trauma, right? I'm
Right.
expecting us to have an argument. I'm expecting her to cheat on me. I'm expecting something to go wrong in some way because in my mind, this is how it always happens. So I had not
Mhm.
learned how to mitigate my past, my future, how to kind of correlate those things and separate and understand that no, that's you thinking that way because of where you've been, what you've gone through. Everybody's
Right.
not like that, but I couldn't see that. All I knew was I got trauma, and of course it wasn't identified as such. I just thought, yeah, it was just, I had a bad upbringing at times. I went to some bad things in childhood. Did not know that that experience, man. It shaped me in such a way, man, that it made it hard for me to believe that somebody could actually place a lot of value in me and respect me and hold me in a place of high esteem and regard. I didn't see that for myself because again, I never had a chance to really develop that strong self-esteem and self-confidence, you know, in a normal method, in a normal
Right.
manner as others have, because I was still trying to process my mental trauma, my emotional traumas. So you're always expecting the worst. It's not gonna
Right.
last. She gonna find
Right.
somebody else. I ain't really all that. I mean, I'm talking
Right.
like Gideon, man. I'm the least in my daddy's house. We ain't got nothing. My dad ain't got nothing. I ain't never had nothing. And the angel said, "Boy, stop. You a mighty man of valor."
Yeah.
But it took
Yeah.
him a while to receive that and internalize that confidence in himself. So
Right.
that's how it showed up in my life, man. My wife and I dating. She loved me, but I didn't believe it because again, I got childhood trauma.
Trauma.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
you gonna find somebody better than me with a better job. Somebody taller than me. All kind of
Right.
just weird things going through your mind, man, because of the
Right.
trauma.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So you
so
know,
that's how it
and
shows up, man.
yeah, yeah, it definitely shows up in that way. But I love the fact that you were able to get to a place where you identified it and you were really willing to confront it. Uh, I remember posting about 5 months ago. I said the bravest thing you can do is to heal from your hurt.
Yes.
The bravest thing you can do is to heal from your hurt because it takes an amount of bravery to go and to address those childhood traumas. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna get to my next question. I was talking to my dentist the other day, and I he was telling me about when he was a little boy, he would meet his father at the gate, and when his father got off work and came to the gate, he he would be there at the gate, and every day he would pick him up. You pick his son up, and he did that every day. And I don't know how old he was, but one day his mother came and she said, "You're too big for him to be picking up." So his father started picking him up, and he was saying that he didn't realize what that did to him, how that changed how he viewed himself, because his father was always picking him up. He was always there. And my point is that we have to make sure that we are addressing those things. We have to see them for what they are. And that's another reason again why I wanted to start this podcast, because I want us to start thinking, is there anything that I'm doing right now that is a direct result of something that happened in my childhood? Is it a response, anything like that?
Yep.
So my next question is, what do you believe is the biggest obstacle when it comes to inner child healing?
I think the biggest obstacle would be embarrassment.
Okay.
Embarrassment and unwillingness to accept the reality of what transpired. You have to confront your past experiences with the mindset to change or to not let it control you any longer.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest hindrances we find is people are unwilling to admit, okay, this was wrong, this was a bad experience, and we compartmentalize some of our traumas so we can just kind of place them in our memory banks and kind of forget them. And they always have a way of seeping back up to the forefront of our reality. So
Yes.
to me, the biggest hindrance is if you're not going to be honest enough to acknowledge, I got a problem here. This wasn't right. And I applaud you on what you said earlier about, again, it wasn't your fault it happened, but it's your responsibility to deal with it.
Right.
Because if you let it linger, it will. It'll follow you until you leave. It'll follow you. And at
You're
some
right.
point, you got to get sick and tired. You got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's it.
You got to, I mean, it confronting uncomfortable situations is uncomfortable.
That's
It's
true.
frightening,
That's
but
true.
you got to take courage. And if you want to heal, if I if I
Mm.
if I if I refuse to allow this experience to control me any longer, I got to be willing to go down into the gutter, confront it, and acknowledge like if this wasn't my fault, and you don't have the right to continue controlling my life, controlling my emotions, controlling my perspective and my reality. You don't have that right anymore. You got to go get dirty, get in the gutter, and confront it, and be honest with yourself. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I cried sometimes. I felt uh, um, unworthy, unwelcome,
Mm.
unliked. So you
Mm.
go through a range of emotions, but then you got to realize that your life has value also.
That's true. That is so, so
Your
true.
life has value as well. And,
Yeah.
and nobody has the right to place you in a box of you feeling unworthy and not good enough.
Right. Right.
Because that's what trauma does, man. It paralyzes your potential.
Mm. Ooh. I'm gonna need that. Okay. I,
That's what it
I gotta
does.
write that down. Trauma paralyze. It paralyzes your potential, and you are so, so true. It keeps us stuck and keeps us
It
stagnant and
keeps you
keeps us
stuck.
from moving in the direction that God intended for us to go. And see, to
That's
me,
right.
again, that's why it's so important for us to see the purpose, see the person that you would be without. Ooh, imagine a person you would be without your trauma.
Exactly.
Imagine what you could accomplish if you didn't have that part. Imagine
Hmm.
how your life would look if you were free from the weight and the burden of that, and you were able to really express yourself and live in the way that God intended for you to live.
and
That to
not,
me is the freedom. Go ahead.
yes, and not seeking everybody's affirmation on your direction in your life. Because for a long time I wanted everybody to like me. That's
Yep.
and that's a residual effect of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to agree with me. I want everybody to affirm me. And that will show me that you accept me. So I want your
Right.
affirmation. I want your acceptance. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
like me. I want you to
Yeah.
agree with me. And, and
Right.
and the reality is, you just got to affirm yourself, accept yourself. You got to like yourself and agree with yourself. The Bible says that we are fearfully
And
and
wonder.
wonderfully made
Right.
in the image of God.
Right.
So I don't need you to affirm me. God already has affirmed me. I don't need you to
Okay.
agree with me. God agrees with me. He called me. He sent me forth.
Right.
I don't need you to like me because God loves me.
Right.
So
Right.
I have to be strong enough to love myself, to like myself, and to know if you don't ever agree with me, it'll still be okay.
That's it.
And I'm
That's
telling you,
it.
Doc, man, and so when you can do that, you can
Mm-hmm.
then start the healing process. And I'll tell you one thing about the healing process, Brother Prince, it's not a one day or one time thing.
That's
It's a
it.
continuous process. Because even now, I am confident in who I am. And I don't need
Right.
you to like me. I don't care about your affirmation. I don't care about
Right.
your agreement. And I'm unapologetic about that now.
Right.
However, every now and then, those triggers,
Yeah. Exactly.
those
Exactly.
triggers, if I
Exactly.
if I'm not careful, those triggers, they come up, man, and I have to watch myself, because if not, I find myself going back down the rabbit hole.
And that's true. That's true. That is so
Yeah.
true. So okay, so do you believe people can do inner child therapy or inner child work alone?
No, no.
Okay. All right. Explain.
In the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
There you go.
And
Okay.
he who counsels himself counsels a fool.
Okay. There you go.
I think in order for you to maximize the healing process, you got to be vulnerable and you got to be transparent.
Mm.
You got to go into that gutter and get transparent and find somebody who's been there, who can identify. Listen, I'm not talking about somebody giving you theory. I'm talking about somebody who has practical experience, who's been there, who
Exactly.
can tell you what it's like, that can
Exactly.
identify with every nuance and every variable that you are confronted with, because they've been there,
Right.
right? I wouldn't go to anybody trying to make a pound cake if they never made a pound cake before. Wait, you don't know about the butter, the eggs, the sugar, the nothing. You never
Right.
made one before. How you gonna give me guidance on how to make a proper pound cake and you never made one before?
Okay.
That's ludicrous. So when it comes to inner child healing, you cannot reach your maximum uh, uh, um, wholeness by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. The
Yeah.
only thing you can do by yourself is to acknowledge I have a problem. It's like
Okay.
a person who's going through narcotics or Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step in the healing process is to admit you got a problem. At
Right.
that point, you don't sit around and try and counsel yourself. Say, okay, I'm gonna exercise my willpower and discipline, and I'm not gonna drink anymore. I'm not gonna smoke anymore. No,
Right.
you go to a support group. You go to a
Right.
support group for encouragement, for somebody who can tell you, man, I've been where you are. I can identify what you're going through. I know that some days you feel real strong, and some days you feel real weak. So I understand the variables that you got to deal with. I would never suggest to anybody, yeah, man, counsel yourself. You got it. You can do this. It's not that simple, because oftentimes tragedy is birthed out of isolation. God insulates and the devil isolates. Let
Mm.
me say that again.
Say that again. Say that again.
When Jesus sent the disciples out, he sent them out two by two, not one by one.
Mm,
Where there is unity, the Bible says there is strength. Okay.
right.
Even and then God said it is not good for man to do what? Be alone.
Right.
So the enemy loves to isolate you, and you stuck feeding off your own mind.
That
God wants
that
to
part.
insulate you. If there any sick among you, let them call for the elders of the church. Let them come together, anoint him, and pray for him. And the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. Okay.
Right.
I would never suggest to anybody or never advise anybody to try and go through these steps by yourself, man, because there are a lot of people who fall into one of these ruts. You fall into that rabbit hole, and it could be a triggering moment. Somebody might say a bad word. You might hear a song that brings you back bad memories, and before you know it, man, you're on the verge of committing suicide because you
Yep.
have not processed or dealt with that trauma. And and there are degrees to trauma. Some is worse than others. You
That's
know,
it.
I mean, and I say this in all humility. I thank God that mine was just emotional and psychological. But what about the ones who've been through physical trauma, sexual
Right.
battery, sexual abuse? Now,
Right.
not only do you have psychological and emotional, but now you got sexual trauma tied into that. And you're gonna sit there and try and counsel yourself?
Mm, yeah. You're right.
No, please don't
Yeah.
do that. Get some
Yeah.
help. There's help available, man.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
I
is.
recommend help.
Definitely. So, how can someone help others who are struggling to identify their need for inner child work?
I would say the best way they can get help is to be able to receive, um, not rebuke, but just to receive the wisdom of those who've been where you are, because they understand the triggering signs and the
Right.
behavior that you may exhibit. I can
Right.
tell when somebody, man, has been where I am. I can
Mm,
tell by your reaction times. I can tell
right.
by how you carry yourself. I
Yeah,
can
that's
tell when you're
true.
trying to overcommodate and overcompensate to be somebody's friend, to be connected. I see the signs because you know why I see the sign? Because I've been there.
Right. Because I
And so
painted
if
it
I
myself.
approach you,
I painted
right.
the sign myself. I know what that sign is because I painted it.
I painted that sign, man. I know where that came from. I've been there. So I can
Exactly.
tell you about that. I got the t-shirt and the hat. I know what that's like, man. And so
Uh,
when I think the best thing a person can do, man, is be teachable and be
mm,
swift to listen and slow to speak, because there are a lot of people who would love to help you and bring you out of that depressive state and bring you out of that low self-esteem state and bring you out of that traumatized state if you're willing to receive the help. And when you are free from that stuff, man, you can move about, you can experience the fullness of joy. I have not seen, ear have not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man the things that God has prepared for them that love Him. But if you stuck in your rabbit hole of trauma, you're gonna miss so much of life, man.
that is
Excuse me.
so true. So true. So my last question is this: how can people start the conversation about inner child trauma?
Start the conversation, man. Um, in the words of my wise dad, may he rest in peace. The journey of 1,000 miles begin with a single step.
Hmm.
If you're around somebody you trust and you know they have your best interests, you got to be strong enough and fearless enough to tell on yourself.
Mm, mm,
You got to be
mm.
strong enough to admit I got a problem, something wrong with me. When the first person I told, when I came to the conclusion, hey, something wrong with me, man. Why am I always running behind everybody? Why am I
Wow.
always calling everybody, going to see everybody, wanting
Wow.
everybody to like me? The the first person I told that to was my wife. I said, you know what? I got an issue here. So I would say the first step is a person that you can trust, that you identify with.
Right.
that you know has your best interest and that will protect you in your vulnerabilities, tell them,
Yeah.
tell them,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, that will protect you and your humanity.
Right. Right.
Because well, see, when I'm out in the public, you got my facade. When I'm in
Right.
my house, I can be transparent and vulnerable. I got to have somebody I can trust, man. I'm exposing me. These are
Yeah.
my faults. These are my issues. These are my thoughts. And so I think the first step is to find somebody you can trust that you can tell on yourself with. Or tell on yourself too,
That's true. That's true. That's true. Man,
to
listen,
start the
man.
steps in healing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, this has been an amazing conversation. And listen, in fact, before we get out of here, I got to run this commercial again. But when we come back, I want you to tell people how they can get in contact with you, how they can follow you, and find out what it is you have going on. And then I want you to give us any last words of wisdom that you have for our audience today. But right now, in fact, we want to hear from our sponsor, BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal or choose Saconi Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank BetterHelp for being the sponsor of this episode. And we're just so appreciative of them and seeing the value of helping people heal. Listen, so with that being
Amen.
said, I want to give our guests a chance to really just tell, if somebody want to contact you, man, if somebody want to find out what you have going on, how could they do that?
You can follow me on Facebook, Kieron
Okay.
Buford. I got my government name out there on Facebook, and my only stipulation is, please don't be strange, don't be weird. You tell me, send me a message saying that, hey, I saw the podcast with you and Saucony Prince, and I got a question. I want to connect with you. Please do that. You can follow me on Facebook, Kieron Buford, KIERON BUFORD, or you can follow me on Instagram at Minister KB_97. That's Minister KB, Minister KB, alphabet _97 on Instagram, as well as you can follow me through my church website, www.shilohofbg.org. You can follow me
Okay.
on those platforms.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, listen, man. Are there any last words or wisdom fact that you want to share with our audience?
Yes, I do, man. Listen, uh, uh, childhood trauma. It's a very pervasive component in our culture. There are so many times I've heard the conversations of people that you would never expect to have been subjected to that type of those type of situations, rather, and it's real. It happens. Um, as Brother Prince said earlier, it wasn't your fault. It was not your fault. You got mistreated. It was not your fault that you got picked on or bullied. It wasn't your fault. But now it's your responsibility as an adult to address it, because that definitely will impact your life and steal your peace. So I would pray that once you identify, I have some triggers, some behavior triggers. I have some self-esteem issues. I have situations where I'm looking for everybody to like me or to affirm me. You might have an issue with childhood trauma. If you experience some of those symptoms, you probably got a situation of childhood trauma that you have not uh, come to grips with yet. And if you identify that, then please uh, find somebody you can partner with, be transparent with, or talk to. There are a lot of great Christian counselors KB, me, I went to counseling. I went to a Christian counselor, and the first time I went there, I broke down in tears, man, because the weight was
Wow.
so heavy inside me. But it helped me start learning how to heal and how to grow. So my parting words will be, it was not your fault, but now it's your responsibility. You know, you owe it to yourself to be healed, to be free.
Amen. Amen. Well, listen, in fact, before we get out of here, I do want to let everybody know, for those of you who don't know, I also am a speaker. I speak on personal development, leadership development, and now inner child healing from inner child trauma. So I'm going to close this out with my scissor reel. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Well, my name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I'm also an author. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people.
Sakoni Prince is the best keynote I've ever seen.
He really encouraged me so much.
He has this ability of seeing in people what they don't see in themselves.
He was so confident. When he was coming to the stage, you could see like, wow, this is a lion.
Any actor that's going for a role, they do a case study. If I'm going to be a fry cook, I go to a restaurant and watch people that are fry cooks. If I'm going to be a mob boss, I go and, well, maybe not go with the mob, but you take some notes as to what they do. Our children are watching. What can they reference when they step into our shoes? I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right questions. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves, they step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them and what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without a mind.
I've learned so much and I've experienced a lot of interactions with people.
The practical approach, like you can't just sit down there, you have to walk up to an opportunity. Sometimes you have to grab the opportunity. Sometimes you have to fight for the opportunity. There's so much life lessons.
I think from today onwards, I'll stretch out and reach to higher levels.